What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today I am going to be bringing you a post-Age of Overlord Rescue Ace deck profile, including the new Diabellstar and Sinful spoil cards as well. As you can see, I have this beautiful Age of Overlord mat that I won at the Saturday sneak peek or pre-release event, whatever you want to call it. But not just that, I did it twice in a row because I took first at yesterday's locals with this same build, so definitely worth showing you guys, and I will be showing you guys the combo at the end, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's show you guys the build. We're going to go pretty quickly through the Rescue Ace names, only talking about a few of them because there are very little things that really need to be said. There are just some contentions on what the right ratio of numbers are, so let's go ahead and show you. We are on 3 copies of our Rescue Ace Hydrant. This is the heart and soul of the deck. You could potentially drop this to 2. With the new Sinful spoil card, you are able to get much easier access to this card, but I still think that 3 is definitely worth running. We have our 3 copies of Impulse, and this is definitely in contention with the community, whether or not you run 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Some people might say 0, I just don't know why, but I think that because you can't guarantee winning every single dice roll, you do want to run this at 3 for those instances where you are forced to go second in game 1. You can side some copies out when you're going into games 2 and 3, because it really is only a good card going second. Not only are you able to use the effect on turn 0 to summon monsters from your deck, but you can also actually turn off some important cards with its on-field effect as well. So 3 for the main, absolutely, but you could drop them when you're going into your post sideboard. We have our 3 copies of Airlifter. Not only is this just the best starter in the deck, but it's very crucial for some of the better combos as well. And if you open up both Impulse and this card, you can go into a lot of cool things on your opponent's turn 1. We have 1 Fire Attacker and 1 Fire Engine. These are cards that are a little wishy-washy, and when I say that, most people are running the Fire Engine, some people are cutting the Fire Attacker, and I think that you want to play both, but you can definitely side them out depending on the matchup. If you're up against something like Unchained, which doesn't really add a lot of cards in their deck to their hand, or to their hand in general, they usually only do it like 1 or 2 times, you can definitely forego playing this, so maybe side it out in that matchup and just keep the Fire Engine, because the Fire Engine will summon you more resources. But on the opposite side of that coin, if you're up against something like Fluwandereeze, which doesn't special summon at all, you would want to side this out and keep the Fire Attacker, so I think having both in the main deck is a good option, and being able to just kind of side it out depending on the matchup is really, really strong. We have our 2 copies of Preventer. Not only is it a Book of Moon, but it is a Reborn from our Banish, and an Extender being able to summon itself as well. And we have our 2 copies of Turbulence. That's going to be it for the actual Rescue Ace cards, but we do have an honorary Rescue Ace in the Diabellstar, the Black Witch. This card essentially gets you a card that says Summon Hydrant from your deck, so you have to play it, and we will talk more about those cards when we get to them later on in the spell lineup. We have our 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just the most generic, but specifically for this deck, it is a fire monster, meaning that you'll be able to add it back to your hand from your graveyard with something like Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. That's going to be it for the monsters. Onto the spells. We have obviously our 3 copies of Emergency. Not only is it the E-Telly for the deck, but it also allows you to recur your traps from the graveyard. There have been plenty of games that I've won because I've used the graveyard effect to set something like a Contain or Extinguish, and then just immediately activate it because I have a Hydrant on my field, being able to turn off or destroy a card on my opponent's side of the field. We have our one-ofs with the Alert, the Rescue, and the HQ. All of them are searchable, obviously other than the HQ. All of them are recyclable as well, so you just really only need to play one-ofs. We have our 3 copies of Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils. This is the card that searches Diabellstar, but not just that. When you pair it with the next card that we're going to show you, it also lets you draw a card as well, and that next card is going to be the original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye. This card will send your Diabellstar from your side of the field to the graveyard, and that's just going to summon Hydrant from your deck, which is going to allow you to search Airlifter because that combo doesn't use your normal summon, so you're now going to be able to normal summon Airlifter with Hydrant already on field, meaning that when you search your Emergency, you can just go straight for something like the Turbulence. We have our 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. This is just for consistency. Yes, it does conflict with the draw of the original Sinful Spoils, or rather the Wanted that will put the original Sinful back, but you don't have to use both in the same turn. If you really want to dig, just don't use the graveyard effect of Wanted and save it for the next turn. A couple of one-ofs, we have our 1-for-1, our Reinforcement of the Army, and our Triple Tactics talent. This is just a flex spot. You can make this whatever you want. I just needed one more card, and I built this deck 5 minutes before the tournament started, so I had a talents, I threw it in, and here we are. We have our 1 copy of Contain and Extinguish. These are the pop or the effect negate and the pop respectively. Really, really strong cards, really, really potent. And finally, we have our 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, making the main deck 40 cards. Let's show you guys the extra. Now, as I said in the last section, I did build this deck 5 minutes before the tournament started, so we did just have to work with what we had, and there are definitely some changes that I will probably make moving forward once I have more ample testing time, but let's show you guys what we did well with. So we have the 1 copy of Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Previously, you would use this to protect your Turbulence from getting Veilered or Impermed, but we actually have other ways of doing that now. This card is now mostly delegated to summon this next card, and that is going to be Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller is really good for the format because both Tier Limit and Unchained are very top contenders, both of which are very heavily reliant on their graveyard. So you have a 1-card combo if you play the Mud Dragon line that gets you into an Abyss Dweller as well as your set cards off of your Turbulence, so it's just really, really strong to be able to do that. We have our 1 copy of Zeus. This is for if you're going second into something like Tier Limit. What you can do is you can use Abyss Dweller to turn off the graveyard, swing into literally anything, and then Zeus the field, and that's pretty much a good game. But that's going to be it for the Fusions and Xyz. Onto the Link monsters. We have Linkuriboh and Anima as our one-ofs. I'm not really sure how I feel about Anima. This is a card that not a lot of people play into, but you might as well have it. The Linkuriboh is definitely crucial for the strategy of the deck as well. We have our 1 copy of Dark the Dark Charmer and Heat of the Fire Charmer. We are able to make the Dark off of either the Linkuriboh or the Anima, so being able to use that, especially when, like I said, Unchained and Tier Limits are very relevant in the format. And then Hita is Hita. Every deck is going to play Ash, and we're obviously playing a Fire deck. We have our 1 copy of IP Masquerena. This card is really cool when we pair it with the new card, SP Little Knight, because now what we can do is we can end our end board on an IP Masquerena. On our opponent's turn, use the IP to go into the SP. SP will activate on summon because we used a Link monster for its summoning condition, meaning that we will be able to banish a card on the field, so that's almost better than going into Unicorn, because Unicorn would spin it back to deck, this banishes it, but we get an additional interruption as well thanks to SP's other effect of when our opponent activates card, we can target 2 monsters on the field and banish them, one of which has to be our own, but now where Unicorn only cleared 1 card, this card is now able to clear 2. So it's definitely worth playing. We have our 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix. This is just good generic back row removal, especially if our opponent is playing some kind of Floodgate. We have our Proxy F Magician to go into the Mud Dragon. That is again for the 1-card Abyss Dweller combo. And then we also have our Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. Previously, this was actually a mandatory part of the combo, but now is just kind of there for extra utility. You don't really need to go into it unless you're trying to link climb. So yeah, you can also, like I said, add back Ash Blossom, which is really cool. We have our 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Even though we are on the SP, we are still on the Unicorn because the way that I've been using Unicorn now with the deck is where SP is interruption for my opponent's turn, Unicorn is now a board breaker, and then lead into our copy of Access Code, which is how we have been winning a majority of our games. Making a 5300 attack access code, popping everything our opponent controls, having something like a Turbulence as well, that is 8300 damage, and that's just game. And finally, we have our 1 copy of Underworld Goddess. Sometimes you just need a way to get out of a monster that you can't otherwise get out of, and Underworld Goddess is the best way of doing so. Not to mention, it does also have the effect to negate an effect that summons from the graveyard, meaning that it's relatively good into the format. So that is the extra deck. Let's show you guys the new Diabellstar combo. So for the new combo, it is a 1.5 card combo using the Wanted Seeker and any card to discard. So we're just showing you guys a card that doesn't matter. This is going to be able to set up your full board, and let me show you guys how we are going to do that. So we are going to start things off by activating out the Wanted. This is of course going to allow us to add our copy of Diabellstar the Black Witch from our deck to our hand. Now with the Diabellstar the Black Witch, we can go ahead and summon it by discarding a card, or rather sending a card from our hand to the graveyard, which will activate its on-field effect. When it is summoned, it can go ahead and set a copy of Sinful Spoils from your deck to your side of the field. So now we have this face down. We can activate this card, and using it, we will send the Diabellstar to the graveyard as cost. This allows us to summon any level 1 fire from our deck to our side of the field, which is of course going to be our copy of Hydrant. Hydrant's going to then be able to activate here on field to allow us to search any of our Rescue Ace cards. That is going to allow us to add our Airlifter, and then we can go ahead and normal summon the Airlifter since we've not yet used our normal summon. Activating the Airlifter effect, this is going to then search our copy of Emergency. We can activate Emergency, which allows us to summon any of our Rescue Ace from the deck. Here we are going to summon out our copy of Turbulence and send the Airlifter to the graveyard. What we'll do here now is activate the Turbulence effect to set 4 to our side of the field. Of course, that means we are going to get our Rescue, our Alert, our Contain, and our Extinguish. Pretend these are face down. I'm going to leave them face up just for video's sake so you guys can see what we have. Now, because we still have our Hydrant, we are allowed to activate one of these the turn they are set. We are going to specifically activate the Alert because we want to search for a card. Here we're going to search for our copy of Preventer. Now that we have the Preventer in our hand, we can go ahead and summon it to our side of the field by banishing out a level, or rather any of our Rescue Ace cards. Specifically, we're going to go for the Airlifter. The reason we're going for the Airlifter is because we want to be able to resummon it when the Preventer leaves our field, preferably on the next turn, because then we'll be able to use the Airlifter effect again. Now, this is where you could potentially end your board, and that leaves you with quite a few interactions. Obviously, we have the Contain and the Extinguish, both of which not only have their original effects, but the additional effect because we control a Hydrant. We have the Preventer, which acts as a Book of Moon, meaning that we'll just be able to put something our opponent controls face down. We have the Turbulence, which is able to destroy a card if our opponent makes any other card leave our side of the field. But if you wanted to extend a little bit further than this, you could take the Turbulence and the Hydrant, and you could go ahead and link those off into something like a, sorry, didn't have that ready, IP Masquerena, and now what that does is you can go ahead and obviously rescue, reborn anything, probably preferably going to be the Hydrant. Again, this is now on the opponent's turn. You'll be able to activate that to reborn, making your Book of Moon live, making these live with the additional effect as well. Then the IP is going to be able to go into something else, either the Unicorn or the SP Little Knight, which is the better option, and you still have 3 cards in hand, but you could also go for a 4th card because I forgot to mention, we have the effect of Wanted, which we can banish from the graveyard to put the Sinful Spoils back to the bottom of our deck and draw a card, meaning that we have, what is that, 5-6 interruptions with 4 cards still in our hand, and I think that's just incredible. And there you guys have it. That is going to be my Rescue Ace Sinful Spoils deck profile. Again, I did really well winning the sneak peek mat, as well as getting first place in yesterday's locals as well, so definitely think this is a top meta contender, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget that we are also auctioning off the pulls from our box opening video for charity, so make sure you check out that Instagram post. I'll link that in the description down below as well. That auction will end on October 20th, so this upcoming Friday. Make sure you guys get in on it because, again, if you want to pick up those amazing cards, you're also doing something good for charity. You guys know the deal. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.